Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ben here, and today I am back to do another video. I am going to be discussing my mid-season award predictions and picks for the NBA season. So we're basically at a halfway point right now. A lot of teams have played like between 40 to 45 games, so I thought it would be a good time to sort of update what I think will be the outcome of the awards picks for all of the various awards in the NBA. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first I'm going to start with the individual awards. Well, they're all individual awards actually, but I'm going to start with like Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, and then after that I'll go into like defensive teams, rookie teams, all NBA teams. So just know that that's the order that I'm going to go in. So first leading us off is Most Improved Player of the Year, and for that I have John Collins. If you're not familiar with him, he plays for the Atlanta Hawks. He was a rookie last year. I think this year he's averaging 19 and 10, 19 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, and last year he was averaging like 10 points and 7 rebounds a game. His shooting percentage is about the same. He was shooting like 51% last year, 52% this year. But overall, he's just shown that he has improved in that he can handle more of an offensive load while keeping up his efficiency and also being a productive and effective player. Now, yes, the Hawks aren't a very good team, but he himself has played well. And, on any other team, he'd probably be a good contributor to a winning effort. The other guys I consider here were like Pascal Siakam. He's gone from like 7 points a game last year to 15 this year. Like he went from 7 points and 3 rebounds a game to like 15 and 7. And while I do think that he has played really well and deserves consideration, he's my second place pick. At the same time, he's like the fourth best player on his team, and really like on a given night, he could score like 8 points and it wouldn't really affect the team. Whereas you could argue John Collins is the best player on the Hawks. Some people might say Trey Young, but I honestly would say John Collins is right now, and they depend on him every night to be the go-to guy. Whereas like Pascal Siakam, as I say, he could score like 6 points and it wouldn't really matter because you have Kawhi, Lowry, Valanciunas, Ibaka, all those guys can get ahead of him and score 15 to 20 points a night and pick up his slack pretty easily. But John Collins doesn't really have that benefit. Next, Rookie of the Year. This is probably the most clear cut of any of them. I have Luka Doncic winning. He's leading the Mavericks to a much better record than people expected. People expected them to be like a cellar dweller, and I think they're like 20 and 24, like 21 and 24, something like that. They're in the mix that they could get in the playoffs potentially. He's averaging 20 points a game, 43% from the field, 38% from three. He's averaging like 7 rebounds a game, 6 assists a game, something like that. So he's kind of just doing a bit of everything for Dallas and leading them to a much better record than people thought that they would be at, and his production is much better than people thought it would be at. So he's the easy pick for Rookie of the Year. Sixth Man of the Year, I have Derrick Rose on here. He's doing tremendous for the T-Wolves at 19 points a game on 48% shooting from the field and 44% from three, averaging 4 rebounds a game and 5 assists a game. So just being really, really productive off the bench. He's pretty much the easy pick here. Lou Williams is doing good too, but I feel like voter fatigue is going to prevent Lou Williams from ever winning it again. He has won it twice now, and I don't think that they're going to give it to him again, really, just because of voter fatigue. And Derek Williams is having such an outstanding year. For Defensive Player of the Year, I have Paul George on here. He is doing really well. He's got his usual steals numbers, and he's just been a lockdown wing defender. He's led Oklahoma City to the best defense in the entire NBA, which is impressive. And he's really been the catalyst for that team on the defensive end of the floor. So I would pick him as my Defensive Player of the Year. And let's see here next, Coach of the Year. This one is hard to pick. There's a few really good candidates. You could say, of course, always Steve Kerr. You could say Nick Nurse from Toronto. You could say Budenholzer in Milwaukee. I would say it's really between Nick Nurse, Budenholzer, and Mike Malone of Denver. And for this, I picked Mike Malone. Now, Budenholzer is the main other guy that people would pick. First, I'll disqualify Nick Nurse really quickly. Dwayne Casey led Toronto to the best record in the East and the second best record in the league last year, and they got an upgrade in Kawhi Leonard over DeMar DeRozan. So I don't really know how much Nick Nurse has actually done as instead of just take over for Dwayne Casey and probably do the same exact job that Dwayne Casey would have done if he would have been there. So I don't think Nick Nurse has really improved the team in any way. I think he's just as Dwayne Casey's assistant last year, he's just taken over and done the exact same thing. So that being said, I don't think he deserves it. Next, Mike Budenholzer. The reason I didn't give this to him is that Denver, I think, it has a slightly better record than Milwaukee. Milwaukee plays in a weaker conference in the East, where you basically have like 5 to 6 teams you have to worry about, whereas in the West you have 14 teams you have to worry about on a nightly basis. That being said, having a better record in the West is much more impressive. I'd also say Milwaukee has a more talented team. They have Giannis, who's better than Jokic, and then they have I feel like Gary Harris and Jamal Murray are about equal to the likes of like Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe. But I think having Giannis is much more valuable than having Jokic. Basically, I'm not giving this to Budenholzer because I've always thought that Milwaukee should be like the 1 or the 2 seed in the East with the talent that they've got in their roster between Giannis, Middleton, Bledsoe, Brogdon, and Brook Lopez. That's like that's one of the best starting lineups in the NBA. So to me, it's not really like a surprise that they're doing well because like last year I expected them to be like a 3 or a 4 seed. The year before I expected them to be like a 3 seed. So I've always expected them to do well. So when they finally do well, it's not impressive as much as like my reaction has been like, okay, finally you're living up to the expectations that have been there for you. And then as for the Nuggets, a lot of people, like myself included, I thought that they'd be in the playoffs this year, but maybe like the 6, the 7, the 8 seed. But they're pushing for the 1 seed in the extremely unprecedentedly crowded Western Conference. That being said, I gotta give it to Mike Malone. He's taken like this collection of guys where there's no real like superstar alpha dog. Yes, Jokic is like the number 1 guy, but he only scores like 16 points a game. It's not like he can put up 28 or something. He's taken a collection of good players and made them a great team, which I think is really impressive. Really having the same exact team that they did last year too, by the way. The only improvement they have is that Paul Millsap isn't perpetually injured this year. So I have Mike Malone as my coach of the year. Now MVP, I know I had a video about a week ago that said James Harden was the undoubted MVP, and what the key to that video was though is right now James Harden is the MVP is what the whole theme of that video is. Right now James Harden is the MVP, the way he's playing, averaging 36 a game, elevating the Rockets to like the 3 or the 4 seed in the West. But here's the key to that. If the Rockets finish as the 3 seed in the West, then yes, James Harden is the MVP. But in all likelihood, I think that he eventually is going to somewhat run out of gas and they're going to finish like maybe the 6 seed in the West. And if they do, then I'd say he's not the MVP. If they finish at the 3 or the 2, yes, he is. But otherwise, no. As for the Bucks, I think it's pretty much not guaranteed, but I think most people would assume that they'll finish as the 1 or the 2 seed in the East. And Giannis is putting up like 26 and 13 this year, and like 6 assists a game, which is very impressive. He's getting blocks and steals as well. He does everything for a team except shoot 3 pointers. And for that, I mean, if you doubt that he's the MVP, go look up his stats and the team's success, and you can see for yourself. He is the MVP to me. I think that second place is a tie between Harden and Kawhi. Again, Kawhi has Toronto at either the 1 or 2 seed in the East, depending on the day, and he's had a really impressive season, averaging a career high like 27 points a game, and again, bringing lockdown defense to the team. So him and Harden are my second place tie. But again, if Harden finishes with them as like the 3 seed with that talentless team, I have to put Harden as the MVP because that's just a monumental feat. Okay, so now moving on, I'm going to cover the all NBA defensive teams. So in the first team, I have Drew Holiday, Victor Oladipo, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Anthony Davis. I feel like a lot of this is self-explanatory. AD, he actually qualifies as a center now because apparently the Pelicans say that he's a center and he plays some center. So he qualifies as a center for this All NBA first defensive team. Kawhi and George playing great as always. Oladipo and Holiday still playing some really good defense. So I got all those guys in there. Second all defensive team, I have Russell Westbrook, who's leading the league in steals. I have him in there first. He is a guy that will give you 100% or 110% effort on every game, every play, and that translates to really good defense, obviously. Next, I have a guy who never gets the recognition on these defensive teams that he deserves, but I have Klay Thompson on the all defensive second team. Really good defender, always takes the other team's best wing or guard player, and so I got him on here because he deserves some recognition, which he hasn't been getting the past couple years. Next, as the forward slots, I have Giannis and Robert Covington. Both have Robert Covington's been a lockdown perimeter defender. Giannis blocks, steals, can guard your best guy. He deserves to be on here as well. And then at center, I have Rudy Gobert, who's played pretty well. Not as good as last year when he was the defensive player of the year, but still really good defender, obviously. For my all rookie teams, this one is interesting in that it doesn't matter like positionally. Like it could be like 4 centers and a guard. It's just the 5 best players for the all rookie teams. So on my all rookie first team, I have Luka Doncic, of course. DeAndre Ayton, who's averaging like 16 points a game, 10 rebounds on pretty decent shooting numbers. Then I have Jaren Jackson, who's averaging like 13 and 10 on pretty good shooting numbers. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's really exceeding expectations for him in Los Angeles and helping them to be a playoff team. And then Colin Sexton, who's averaging like 17 points a game and 3 assists and 3 rebounds a game. He's just played pretty well for the Cavs, and I think he's going to be the player that they wanted him to be. Now, on my second team, I have Trae Young, who you might say, well, why is Colin Sexton ahead of Trae Young? Trae Young is just less efficient than Colin Sexton, so for that reason, their numbers are pretty similar, actually. Trae Young has more assists, but Colin Sexton shoots it better from the field, like field goal percentage. Trae Young's a better 3-point shooter, but overall field goal percentage, Colin Sexton has a slightly better one, so I put him in my first team. So Trae Young, Marvin Bagley, Wendell Carter, Kevin Knox, Josh Okogie. I'm not going to go too much into this, just like Kevin Knox and Josh Okogie have played like all right of the rookies out there. Wendell Carter, again, played decent. Marvin Bagley played decent. I always feel like the All-NBA second team or All-Rookie second team is basically just like really high draft picks that people expected to do really well in the rookie year, and they kind of underwhelmed. Well, you were still like the number 3 pick, so we'll just put you on the All-Rookie second team. That's like Marvin Bagley this year or Wendell Carter. Sort of like had average to decent seasons, but kind of underwhelmed slightly, so they go on the All-Rookie second team. Much like you see guys in the past, like Wesley Johnson in 2010, he went on the All-NBA second team. Last year, I think Lonzo Ball was on the All-NBA rookie second team. Derek Williams in 2011, really expected to blow the roof off of everything, All-Rookie second team. I could come up with more examples, but I think you get the gist. Brandon Ingram, I think, was an all-rookie second-team guy who was expected to be the next Kevin Durant. So there you go. Okay, so now moving on to my All-NBA teams. So I'm going to go All-NBA first team, second team, third team, and then I might discuss why I have certain guys where. So again, keep in mind, this one is pretty strict in that you have to have 2 guards, 2 forwards, and 1 center on each team. Anthony Davis technically this year apparently does qualify as a center, so I do have him in the center slot on the All-NBA first team. At the guard spots, I have Curry and Harden, both doing great. Curry averaging 28 points a game, Harden I think averaging 36, and then Giannis and Kawhi, who are the MVP frontrunners. So I feel like the NBA first team is pretty cut and dry. Again, let me just rattle it off quick. Curry, Harden, Giannis, Kawhi, and Anthony Davis. Now on the second team, at the guard spots, I have Damian Lillard and Kyrie Irving, both having pretty good years. And then Kyrie's actually averaging a career high in assists this year at 7. He's averaging 24 and 7. Damian Lillard's averaging like 26 and 7. At the forward slots on here, I have LeBron and Durant, and then at the center slot, I have Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is averaging like 26 points a game, 13 rebounds, so being very impressive. And then at the forward slots, Durant's averaging like 28, very impressive, and LeBron's averaging his usual 27, 7, and 7. LeBron on the All-NBA second team might be quite shocking, but I really do feel like between the time he's missed and the seasons that Kawhi and Giannis are having, they deserve to be ahead of him on here. they've both had seasons that you could say are better than LeBron's, and LeBron has missed nearly a month here of time, which is translating to like 15 to 20 games. So I think it's justified that he's on the second team and not the All NBA first team. Going to the All NBA third team here, I have Russell Westbrook, who's averaging 22, 11, and 11. Although he's shooting really poorly from the field, that's why he's down on the third team. If he was shooting better, he might be ahead of Kyrie or Damian Lillard, but he's not, so he's down here. At the other guard spot, I have Kemba Walker, who's averaging a career high 25 points per game and deserves to be on the All NBA team somewhere. Forward slots, I have Paul George, and here's a controversial one that people are probably going to disagree with. Blake Griffin, who's averaging 26 points a game and 8 rebounds and 5 assists a game, which is 5 assists is very impressive for a power forward. 26 points per game is his career high. He's shooting the second highest field goal percentage of his career, I think, at 48%. And then I think the highest 3-point percentage of his career at 36%, or second highest. And then well, really, when the forward slots come up, it's hard because the only other guy I could think to put in here would be like Luka Doncic, who doesn't deserve to be on there yet. I don't think his efficiency isn't good enough yet, and his team success isn't good enough. Now, while Detroit's team success isn't very good either, Blake has played so well individually that I think he warrants being on this list. Other players that I think you could argue should go ahead of him. Maybe like LaMarcus Aldridge, but then again, Blake has played just as well, if not better than Aldridge. I can't really think of anyone else. You know, like you can't put Karl Anthony Towns here because he's a center, so you can't put him at the forward slot. There's not many good forwards in the league right now, so to speak, outside of the 5 guys of like Paul George, LeBron, Durant, Giannis, and Kawhi. There's not like a 6th guy like Gordon Hayward not playing well this year for an All NBA team selection. I mean, Jason Tatum not good enough either. You know, and then you run down the list like Paul Millsap, no. Draymond Green, no. Like just I was just running down the list and I could not find a suitable guy really, so I was like, I guess it's Blake Griffin. He's averaging 26 and 8 and 5. That's pretty impressive on really good efficiency numbers for himself, so I picked him. And for my last center slot on the All NBA third team, I had Nikola Jokic. The only other guy I considered here was Karl Anthony Towns, but Jokic and them almost have the best record in the West, and he has put up really good efficiency numbers. He's the best player on the second to first best team in the West, so I think it's an easy pick to put Jokic in here. And the only thing that I think would have made this better is if Anthony Davis was still considered a power forward, because if he was, then the list would have been Steph, Harden, Giannis, Kawhi, and then Embiid on the first team. And then on the second team, I would have had Lillard, Kyrie, James, Durant, and Jokic. And then on the third team, or actually probably on the second team, I would have had Lillard, Irving, Durant, Davis, and Jokic. And then on the third team, I would have had Kemba, Westbrook, Paul George, LeBron, and Karl Anthony Towns. That's probably how that would have changed. So if Anthony Davis was still considered a power forward, I would have basically subbed out Karl Anthony Towns for Blake Griffin on this All NBA team. But because they're classifying him as a center, I need another forward, so I picked Blake Griffin and Karl Anthony Towns as center, so he can't qualify. So basically, Anthony Davis technically being a center now costs Karl Anthony Towns a spot on the All NBA team. So there you have it, guys. Those are my midseason NBA award picks. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. If you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a good day, and I will see you next time. Bye.